The Act of Killing is a documentary film released in 2012 by director Joshua Oppenheimer. The film was produced with the intention of confronting the Indonesian government about their lack of public acknowledgement over the anti-communist massacres of 1965 to 1966, following General Suharto's coup, events which are now described by many as a genocide. Figures of the number of people killed during the massacres range from around 500,000 to 2.5 million, yet the perpetrators of the atrocities not only admit what they've done on camera, but boast about it. Oppenheimer's documentary is unique, as he is showing the killers memories of the events by allowing them to film a reenactment from their perspective. In doing so, he sees the process that they are going through and coming to terms with what they have done, particularly Anwar. Speaking in an interview in 2013, Oppenheimer explains why he felt making this documentary was necessary.
We need a film that exposes, for Indonesians themselves, the nature of this regime, not because Indonesians don't know it, but rather because they know it and are too afraid to talk about it.
This interview with Oppenheimer highlights the significant impact that historical documentaries can have on the contemporary landscape. Oppenheimer wants the film to lead to a discussion and for people not to be scared to conjure their memory of the event and to contribute towards this discussion. We see in the following clip the reluctance some older women have in reliving the experience, when her man attempts to convince them to participate in the reenactment.
Kalau aku bang, aku rasa nggak ada yang mau, nggak mau ibu-ibu kalau diperankan baik. Dia bilang pula dia orang PKI pula dia. Di sini kan PKI kali dulu sini banyak.
We see here that Herman Cotto, Anwar's henchman, comments on the fact that they're still scared of the events of the past, which perhaps suggests that some citizens who lived through the ordeal aren't yet prepared to be demanding a presidential apology, a truth commission, or reconciliation measures. Nick Bradshaw notes that you can't have reconciliation without truth first. Perhaps that is what Oppenheimer is trying to achieve, to break the silence and pave the way towards acknowledgement and reconciliation. The documentary is unique in the way that it approaches the challenges of showing historical experiences truthfully and objectively through film. It is a film within a film. On one hand, it's produced by Oppenheimer and his team, many of whom are Indonesian and not named for fear of repercussions, and on the other hand, it's produced by the paramilitary gangsters. Both have their own ambitions for what they want the film to be, and the story that they want to tell. Kari Mikalaiden argues it's the tensions between these two differing representations of history that drive the act of killing. Arguably, Anwar embodies the struggle between the two, as he becomes increasingly unsure of what kind of history he wants to tell.
Saya melihat ya, kalau sukses kita bikin ini film, menyatakan bahwa film G30 PKI yang dulu, PKI kejam, tidak kejam. Yang kejam tuh kita. Kita yang kejam. Kan, nggak benar, kan betul itu dugaanku dulu, nggak mungkin PKI gitu. Ternyatanya mereka lebih sadis, lebih kejam. Bukan untuk kita, tapi untuk satu sejarah. Penilaian satu sejarah berbalik. Bukan 180, 360 derajat itu berbalik.
Hiradi notes the consequences of making the documentary that they're making, stating it's a problem for history, and worrying that the false portrayal which has endured for almost half a century will be replaced by the truth. Anwar, though he wants to present a truthful account, sometimes struggles when confronted by this, such as when his neighbour Serrano gives an account of his historical experience of the massacres, that of his stepfather being killed in the middle of the night for being an alleged communist. The gangsters, who were just speaking about how everything in the film should be true, dismiss the story for trivial reasons. Though it is interesting that the gangsters, particularly Anwar, are conscious of the effect that the film is going to have on contemporary attitudes.
But there was something haunted about Anwar in the sense that when he told me on that rooftop the very first time I met him, when he told me what he had done, there was this sense that the past was present.
Though the film specifically features events of the past, Oppenheimer does not shy away from his reflection on contemporary Indonesia, and, by doing so, the film is opening a space for people to talk about the problems of the present, as well as those of the past. He makes us acutely aware that the past that he's depicting, through Anwar's reenactments, is alive in the present. He makes connections with the gangsters behind the massacres of the communists and figures in contemporary government, and by doing so shows that the enduring culture of gangsterism still exists in Indonesia to this day.
Tapi kalau kita sudah tahu genetik dia, kita tahu jiwa dia, kita tahu semangatnya, tinggal ngarahinnya aja.
Kita butuh preman yang melaksanakan jalan, artinya bukan untuk berkelahi. Walaupun berkelahi bukan hal yang tidak perlu.
It is reactions and statements such as these by government officials that Oppenheimer is attempting to combat, and approaches this documentary with the intention of exposing a regime of impunity through its celebration of killing. Throughout the film, we see Anwar's attitudes towards his reenactments change as he comes to terms with the crimes that he has committed. At the beginning, he is eager to show off the locations that he has tortured people. By the end, he is dry heaving when visiting the same sites. Others, such as fellow executioner Adi Zulkandre, refuse to accept that what they did was wrong.
Jadi bisa jadi itu konvensi Jenewa juga kebenaran waktu sekarang konvensi Jenewa. Besok ada konvensi Jakarta, itu Jenewa punya kita buang. Itu definisi-definisi kejahatan perang, itu buatan orang yang menang. Saya pemenang, saya mesti bikin juga definisi kejahatan perang.
Oppenheimer does not want to make a film forcing the perpetrators to apologise for what they have done. He wants to understand their feelings on the subject by looking at the way in which they approach the reenactments as well as the reenactments themselves. Typically, when we hear from perpetrators in documentaries, they attempt to apologise for what they have done or they deny it. Often this can be attributed to the fact that they have experienced their fall from power or have been condemned as criminals. Here, in the act of killing, these men who are guilty of war crimes and who openly admit to carrying out the atrocities on Chinese and left-wing citizens in 1965 and 66 remain in positions of power and are, in some communities, still hailed as some sort of local hero, such as Anwar in Medan. The method that Oppenheimer employs to present the historical experience and memory of these perpetrators, particularly Anwar, has a lot of merit. It grants them space in which to perform and depict, on camera, the way that they see themselves and the events that they were involved in. It allows us, as the viewer, to make sense of their world and, more generally, the regime of impunity that still exists in contemporary Indonesia.
Kalau ditanya ada berapa orang yang bunuh ini?
Oh, ada banyak lah, nggak terhitung nih, udah seribuan nih bunuhan. Apa nggak dihantu kayak gitu? Terus nggak bisa tidur.
Werner Herzog, a filmmaker in his own right and one of the Act of Killing's executive producers, notes, "You know these men have escaped justice, but they have not escaped punishment." It is this punishment which we see in the internal struggle that Anwar experiences over the course of the filming of his reenactments. This adds a unique dimension to the documentary. When we hear about the subject matter and the atrocities that Anwar has committed, we expect an embodiment of pure evil to be presented to us. But towards the end, Anwar becomes something a lot more human. It's the banality of evil that shocks us, and the clear line we have between good guys and bad guys, especially in films, collapses. Oppenheimer's documentary is successful in its mission to confront the Indonesian government over their denial of the genocide. Upon its release, the film brought the questions it asked to the forefront of Indonesian politics. Students had been educated with false representations of the events, being told versions that justified the killings, and there was a genuine demand that the government launched official inquiries, an official apology, tribunals and reconciliation projects. The editors of Tempo magazine, Indonesia's biggest news magazine, wrote, "We can't stay silent or lie about this genocide anymore. We have to be honest, say it happened and really start investigating." They sent 60 journalists all around the country to gather evidence and to help break the silence. All over the country they found that the act of killing and the crimes committed by Anwar and the others depicted in the documentary were not specific to them or the region of North Sumatra from which they are from, but frequent nationally. Though Oppenheimer's documentary was successful in breaking the silence, the pursuit of justice continues to this day.